The truth only hurts oneself and others emotionally. Denial, that can get you killed. And I want you to think on that quote while you watch and listen to this for the next 10 minutes or so. What I'm going to talk about today is motor skills, specifically fine, complex and gross motor skills. There's been a lot of people talking about this lately on YouTube, a lot of BS out there. I wrote about this back in 2014 in my second book under the heading, chapter heading, The Myth of Motor Skill Depletion. And that's what we're going to look at today, not just to find motor skills, but motor skill depletion. And then the myth part is how we can overcome those, because that's what a lot of instructors and all these people who are talking about motor skill depletion don't look at. They'll give you the stats, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in two ways. I'm going to give you the stats like everybody else does, the average person on the street, and then I'm going to tell you who it doesn't affect and how you can also not be affected by this motor skill depletion. Because if you do that, it's definitely a myth. So first of all, let's look at what we're talking about. Motor skill depletion. We have three different types of motor skills: fine, complex and gross. Each are affected at a different rate of heartbeat, beats per minute. That's what we're looking at. So what we need to start off with first is knowing what are the average beats per minute for the average person on the street. So first of all, let me ask you a question. Do you know what your resting heart rate is? Do you know what your heart rate is at a steady walk? Do you know what your heart rate is at a steady jog? Really important, because when we're looking at fine motor skills, which is at the lower end of our heartbeat range, there isn't much leeway between us jogging, running, and then when they start to get affected. So 60 to 80 beats per minute is the beats per minute for the average person on the street. Now within that, you've got to factor in health and fitness. So you might be fitter and have a lower heart rate than 60. You might be not fit, or you might have health issues. So you might be above the 80, the top end of the range there. So let's look at fine motor skills. So these kick in the depletion part. So every single day, as normal, situation's normal, no crises, because that's when things start depleting, when our heart rate goes up. When there's a crisis, somebody's in front of you, threatening you, shouting at you, your heart rate's going up. Goes up even further if somebody's got a knife pointed at you, a gun pointed at you, they want to rob you, rape you, murder you, you want to run away. Your man-made disasters, you get caught up in car crashes, explosions, natural disasters, something where your life is threatened, your heart rate's going to go up, obviously. So fine motor skills, these are the finicky skills that we do every single day with our finger dexterity. Threading a needle, if you're knitting, if you're sewing, if you're putting a key in a lock, you're typing your PIN number into your phone, things like that, where you need your fingers, small movements where you need to focus as well. So 115 beats per minute, this is when these skills start to deplete, when it's harder to use these skills. The start at 115, the top of the range of that is 145 beats per minute. So that's quite a big range there. Now, if you're already at the top, 80, 90, 100 beats per minute, it doesn't give you much leeway before those fine motor skills are going to start to be affected, to start to deplete, as it's called. Complex motor skills. So complex motor skills are, the easiest way to explain it is when one body part is doing something different to another body part. The best example of this, I think, is boxing. Your head might be moving, your body's going, or you're ducking and diving, you're boxing, you're punching, your feet are moving, footwork. So we've got lots and lots of different movements. Swimming's another good one. Front crawl, your arms are doing one movement, your feet and legs are doing another movement. Same as your breaststroke. So one body part's doing one thing, another body part's doing something else. Complex motor skills. 145 beats per minute to 150 beats per minute, these start to be affected. It starts to be harder to be able to do these things. 150 beats per minute to 175 beats per minute, that's your gross motor skills, start to be affected. These are your massive, big, muscly, powerful movements that we're doing. Walking, running, jumping, getting up off the seat, sitting down, lying down, getting up off the floor. Big movements, they start to be affected at 150 to 175 beats a minute. So that's when our depletion range from 115 to 175 beats per minute. After 175 beats per minute, everything starts to stop, really starts to close down, and it's getting impossible then to use all our bodily functions. So where are you at in that? Let me ask you another question. What is the highest rate your heart rate has been up to? Now, if you think about, this is just stats for the average person. So when you're in a crisis, things are going to start depleting there. That is what everybody gives when they're teaching self-defense, or as in my case, I'm doing crisis management, anything where somebody's going to be involved. You know, if I've got paramedics turning up to a scene, police officers, anything like that, that is the stats that everybody gives. What they don't do is say, okay, who does this not affect? It's not going to affect everyone. This is for the average member of the public. The people who it doesn't affect are our top of the range, our top athletes, our top tactical athletes as well. So tactical athletes, military, police, firefighters. So it's not going to affect them, and I'm going to explain why. If you're operating or used to operating in the higher ranges of heartbeats per minute, you can train your fine motor skills. This is why I wrote about it, and I called it the myth of motor skill depletion. The way out of this for yourself, if you're not training, or let's say you're training in martial arts, let's say you're training in self-defense, you're doing defensive driving, something where, like the thumbnail says, if this is on YouTube or anywhere else, you can't train long or hard enough for a job that can kill you. And today's job, just being out on the street, is so dangerous that you need to be in these top ranges. And the easiest way to do it is to train in these top ranges. But it's not just a case of running and running and running, or skipping and doing everything else and your heart rate's up to there. You've got to test yourself as well. So can you still put keys in the lock when your heart rate's going at 150 miles an hour, I was going to say there, 150 beats per minute? Can you still put that lock, that key in the lock? Can you still thread a needle? You've got to test what you're doing. Can you still, if you're armed, can you still put rounds in a magazine if you've got to refill your magazine? Can you still do those tasks when your heart rate's up there? I was just talking about this with a colleague last week. He'd just been up to 180 beats per minute for 5 minutes. And I said, well, did you test yourself? That's great running like that. But did you test yourself? Did you stop and do something? How are your fine motor skills? Fine motor skills, could you write? Could you write your name? Could you write just a make-up incident report or a message to someone? Could you get your, I don't know, if you're running in your kit, let's say you're a police officer, military, a security guard, and you're running, can you unclasp something off your belt? Can you get your gun out of your holster there? Can you do something? Think about your fine, your complex, and your gross motor skills when you're getting up there. You've got to train on that. You've got to test yourself. It's not good just saying, yeah, I can run for 5 minutes at 200 beats per minute. So for myself, my resting heart rate is 56 beats per minute, and I've operated at 210 beats per minute for a very short period of time, and I'm quite happy at the 150 to 175 beats per minute. But you still have to test yourself. So if you want some ideas on how to test yourself, let me know. Drop a comment. If you want some ideas on how to get up to that range, you know, how long you need to stay at that range for. If you need to, in one of my books I talk about pausing for effective combat, but pausing for decision making. One of the things I'm not going to cover on this is, I see a lot on de-escalation. De-escalation, I was watching this the other day. De-escalation is your first skill that you need to have. So what I want to ask you is this: de-escalation, you practice it during your training. If you're training in self-defense, you see teachers doing it, everybody who's in sort of a conflict, possible conflict, employment situation, that they're training in it. That's great. Situational normal. Your heartbeat's probably about resting heart rate when you're standing there. Just your arms out, keeping somebody back, saying, calm down, calm down. Yeah, brilliant. That's not how it works in real life. What I've not covered on this, and what is a really big aspect of this, is lots of things are happening at those different heartbeat ranges. So How can you de-escalate someone? How are you going to de-escalate someone when your auditory senses are affected? So you're not really listening to what you're hearing. So how can you answer that person to de-escalate it? Your vision is impaired. So somebody's got a knife in front of you or a gun in front of you. You're focused on that because you're terrified. You're not hearing somebody at the same time. How are you going to de-escalate that? Vocally, you're going to be impaired, especially when you get up to the higher ranges. You might be monosyllabic. Yeah, start stuttering like an idiot. Yeah, how are you going to de-escalate? So you can't hear. You're focusing on something that you not should be focusing on. You can't speak. So how are you going to de-escalate if you can't speak? I haven't talked about your bowel movements, which are a natural reaction to when you get up into there, when you are really nervous, when you start urinating, peeing and pooing yourself. That definitely does happen. I've seen that happen before. How are you going to de-escalate? You can't hear. You're focusing on something you shouldn't be focusing on. You can't speak. So how are you going to de-escalate if you can't even speak? You start peeing yourself. You can't run. How many of you out there have been in those situations where you've been trying to run, you've been really scared, you're trying to run, it feels like running through mud? Large motor skills, gross motor skills being affected. So don't just take everything out, you're practicing your de-escalation techniques. Great, they all work. What about when they're 175 beats per minute? Yeah, get up there, test it, see what you can do. So it is a myth. For the average person, yes, that is going to happen. You don't want to be an average person. You want to be one of these tactical athletes. Train in those ranges, 115 to 175 beats per minute. And when you're there, stay in that range for as long as you can, and then test yourselves on those skills that are going to be affected. Your fine, complex, and gross motor skills. People aren't telling you, telling you that after they explain the averages, they're not giving you the full information. I hope that's helped. If you've got any comments, any questions, please feel free, put a comment down below, DM me, send me an email, whatever. Always happy to help. I'll come out and give you some ideas for doing this on your own, doing it with a partner, doing it in group sessions or whatever. Just let me know. My name's Rock Higgins, Viper Tactical Training. Stay dangerous.